How y'all doing today? How y'all doing today? I am your favorite rapper's favorite rapper, the best film writer and director in St. Louis, Facts award-winning published author, activist, journalist, business owner, Lacey G. Souldier Turner. But today we got a great, special, amazing guest. He's a presenter, a coach, a trainer, motivational speaker, award-winning published author, among many other things. We have the amazing, wonderful, talented Marc Hoberman. Welcome to the show.
Lacey, thank you so much. My intro is almost as long as yours. I'm very impressed.
Do I have to give it to you?
Yeah.
So my first question to you, Marc, where were you born and raised?
I was born and raised in Yonkers, New York, from 1962 birth till about age 16. Then around age 16 and a half, my family moved to Florida for a couple of years.
Okay, so how would you say your upbringing was as a child?
I think it was great. I had a wonderful, wonderful upbringing. I lived in an apartment complex known as Sador Lane in Yonkers, New York. Really cool. You could, on Halloween, you could hit 174 apartments and never go out in the rain. So it was really good. And then you could go underneath the garage I was in building 4, into building 2 and hit up another 174. So all good that way. We had a great bunch of kids, families, young families, and played baseball, football, basketball, depending upon the season. So really good, tight-knit group from school. So yeah, Yonkers was wonderful. Quite honestly, I was kind of depressed when my parents decided to pick up and move when I was 16.
So yeah, Yonkers, that's where one of my favorite rappers, DMX, is from, rest his soul.
Sure. Yeah.
So, I looked you up and I saw that, I think at the age of 16 also, you was diagnosed with epilepsy and you was having all these seizures and having to take this medication. So as a child, how did that affect you? This something being new and you experiencing this at a young age. How did that affect you?
Well, it was bad because imagine being 16, I was in the concert band. I was one of the lead players. I had friends in the band. I had a girlfriend at the time. Your parents tell you you're moving in 3 weeks. So that was difficult enough. As it turned out, I had my first seizure when I was 13, but we didn't know it was a seizure until I had the one when I was 16, and then we traced it back. So it was horrible. It was terrible. I was a teenager in a brand new school with new friends, and back then, unfortunately, I took it as a weakness, and I went into pretty much a depression back then. And it was just very difficult as a teenager who had a gorgeous 1977 Mustang in the driveway that I had to sit there for 6 months because back then the law in Florida was you got to be seizure free for 6 months, which I wasn't. So all these things were very difficult. You have somebody, the hormones are raging, you're older, you're supposed to be enjoying the teen years. I did not like the school at the time. I felt displaced, from one state to another. Nothing good about that.
You still got the Mustang?
If I still had the Mustang, I'd be racing it right now or something. So what a great car. Yeah, that would have been a classic now. Beautiful car, black, red trim, red interior, nice Marantz stereo. No, I don't have it.
I was going to say, let me borrow it. No,
I wish I could.
So did you attend college?
Sure. So at the age of about 18 or so, the doctors weren't helping me, and I was still having seizures on medication. So my family decided to find a doctor, which they did in New York at Columbia Presbyterian, Dr. Eli Goldenson. And I came back there and I said, I'm going to go to school here. I had a partial clarinet scholarship to the University of South Florida. But when my parents decided to move back and find a doctor, I was no longer considered a Floridian, so I would have paid twice as much for college. So I went to Rockland Community College and was in the honors program there because we had moved to Rockland County. And after 2 years there, I transferred into SUNY Albany, and that's where I graduated from.
Okay. So I saw that you was an English teacher for over 30 years. How was it like being an English teacher, experiencing these different sets of children, coming in your class, especially over the years as each generation is changing?
Great question, because when you're doing anything over 3 decades, you're going to see some changes. And I started my first 8 years in the Bronx, New York, in a very tough neighborhood on Webster Avenue in the South Bronx. And then I taught for 2 years in a high school, John F. Kennedy High School. all, different kids, different backgrounds. I had gangbangers in my class. I had Bloods, I had Crips, I had people who, I was the review. They couldn't afford tutors. I mean, I own a tutoring agency. I didn't back then, but they couldn't afford me even if they wanted to. So just very tough, a very rewarding 3 decades, all kinds of different children, both in the public school system and in yeshiva where I taught for a year. When I ended my career with 25 years in Rockland County, New York, just different ages, different types. I think it was the greatest thing I've ever done, touching the lives of young people, changing the lives of young people. I wasn't just the teacher, you're the parent, you're the lawyer, you're the psychiatrist. So I just reveled in it. I think I was blessed that I found my calling. A lot of trials and tribulations, nothing worthwhile comes easy, but I had an absolute blast.
Okay. And something I found interesting is me. I'm a filmmaker here in St. Louis, Missouri. I write and direct films, and recently an author also. So I wrote a film about bullying that deals with these children in school, and I found it fascinating when I looked up your book. You're the award-winning author. For the book Adversity Defeated, Turn Your Struggles into Strengths. And what made you want to write that book?
So I always wanted to write the book. I would say I was writing the book, and then I put it aside for 10 years. Life gets in the way. You're busy, vacations, jobs, family, parents getting a little older, unfortunately, deaths in the family. But lo and behold, my son was diagnosed with IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. He was getting very depressed. It wasn't just the physical aspect of it. It was knowing, hey, if I go out to dinner with my friends and have pizza, he's already starting to get nervous because he knows what that's going to feel like. And my wife said to me, you've been going to the doctors with Scott, you've been researching it, you've been very methodical, you haven't been emotional about it. That's really great. And it wasn't a gift. I realized that I was only able to do that because I suffered as a teenager with an illness as well. And that's when the teacher light bulb went off. And I said, hey, if I can help my son, my wife, myself, I can pay it forward as an educator and help other people. So that's when I decided to finish the book. And then I finished it in 4 months.
So let me ask you, when did you, like I said, you was doing this, you was going through the seizures and epilepsy. When did you know or decide to I'm going to overcome this? I'm going to, write this book. I'm going to be this motivational speaker. When did you overcome that?
Way too long, much too long. I was diagnosed at 16 and a half. When I wrote the book and hit the send button to tell everybody on Facebook the book was coming out, I was 54. So I let 38 years pass when fewer than 9 people knew, and 3 of those were doctors. I had relatives that did not know. I wore it as a stigma. I wore it as an embarrassment. My mother was a very strong woman. She had a stroke several years before I was diagnosed. I want to say I was about 12 or 11 when she had a stroke, and she was a very strong woman and came back from that. And when I was diagnosed with epilepsy, she came in the room and said, you're a smart boy, you're a good looking boy, you have friends, you're funny. Guess what? You also have epilepsy. This is going to keep you grounded. You're going to grow from it. You're going to use it to your benefit. And I did listen to her, but not for the first 2 years. I didn't see a psychiatrist. We didn't really do that back then, but I could tell you as an educator that I know I was clinically depressed, crying, so upset. I was out of place. I was in a new home. I had this illness. I couldn't drive my car. That was like a teenager's freedom being taken away. So I started to grow into it and use my sense of humor, and then realized I had to be the support staff. My parents were supportive, but they were suffering emotionally as well. But it was only years later when I realized the catharsis of writing the book. I said to my wife, if nobody reads this book, it's the best thing I ever did. I feel better reflecting, realizing mistakes I made. Why would I wait so long to tell people? It just, as an educator, was stupid, for lack of a better term. I had students, Lacey, in my class who were epileptics, because back then there were no HIPAA laws, and I got a tin on every kid, and it said, this kid is allergic to bee stings, this kid has epilepsy, and it listed the medications. And some of the kids were on Dilantin back in the day. That's what I was on. And it has a side effect of making your gums bleed. And I saw kids with these side effects, and how wrong of me not to say to them, I know you're suffering. Guess what? I'm suffering the same way you're suffering. And I didn't. And It wasn't until I was 54 when I did, and I do motivational speaking about it. The book was self-published under the name Adversity Defeated, Turn Your Struggles into Strengths. It was picked up 2 years ago by LaRue Press in Nevada. So it's now picked up by a traditional publisher, and we renamed it Opportunity in Disguise, How I Defeated Adversity. And it is an opportunity in disguise. Lacey, my book is not about epilepsy. It's about overcoming adversity. My adversity just happened to be epilepsy. So people with gender issues, bullying situations, divorce in their family, people with drug issues, things of that, how you overcome adversity and become your own support system first. And that's a blessing that I get to do that in written form, and then going, and I've done during the pandemic, virtual discussions about this and some of the other programs I offer. And I've obviously done it in person for parents, for kids, for educators. And I just think that paying it forward and really helping other people. I wish the book and a speaker such as myself existed when I was diagnosed. My parents and I, we would have fared better. It would have been less difficult for sure.
I find you phenomenal, because we need more people like you. You know, we all have a lot of the negative influences in life. So when I saw that the books, when I was researching, I saw a lot of the stuff you done. I was very happy, because we need, like you said, we need more people like that. I wish I had someone like that in my life when I was young also. You know, I was going through things like that. But why do you think children are embarrassed or afraid when things like that happen? Like, you know, your parents would be like, it's going to be okay, it's going to be all right, but you still, like you said, you're still embarrassed, you're afraid to tell people. Why do you think that is?
Well, first of all, the parents are sometimes in on it. My parents weren't ashamed. They were worried about the stigma and what people would think about me. So they encouraged me or discouraged me from telling people, encouraged me not to. It's not their business. But I had to tell certain people I wasn't controlled on medication. I couldn't drive. I couldn't try to tell other people why I couldn't drive them to school anymore. I made up some stories, especially after when I had, I've had 21 seizures, but when I had found the best medication, I was seizure free for many, many years, 7 or 10 years, not one seizure. And when it comes to that, there is a stigma attached. I saw it as a weakness. People, which is wrong. People see it as a weakness, which is wrong. It took me all these decades to realize I'm not the man I became. And I'm so glad and happy and appreciative of your nice comments, but I'm not who I am in spite of my illness. I'm who I became because of my illness. I embraced it. I learned from it.
So let me ask you this. I saw where you said you try to show, children how to deal with the often unexpected struggles in their lives. What are some techniques that you use to teach children about that?
Well, one is to know what you know and know what you don't know. What you don't know is there's thousands and hundreds of thousands of people out there like you. You have epilepsy. This other one has diabetes. This one here has a divorce in his family. People can identify with you. Also, you have to learn the hard way what a friend is. People shied away from me. Not a lot. Some did. Those aren't real friends. Those are associates. Don't need them in my life. Hard to tell you. I couldn't have told you that when I was 16. I can tell you that now. I can tell you that when I was 35 even. But, youth is wasted on the young. But I want them to experience life and make their own mistakes. But if they can learn from my mistakes, learn from my struggles, learn from my successes, that's a big deal too. So that's number one. Number two is there was no internet when I was diagnosed. So I went to the library and I went into the periodical room and I went and I looked on something called microfiche. And a lot of people were saying, microfiche, that's a small fish. No, it's microfiche. They don't even know from that. It took me 2 months basically, to research my illness. I was not going to let it define me. I get to define me. No illness gets to define me. But I needed to be knowledgeable. You could find out as much as I found out in 2 months and 45 minutes on the internet now. I also called the Mayo Clinic and had them mail me pamphlets. And I wanted to learn everything about my illness, how people were dealing with it, what was working, what wasn't, what I really shouldn't be doing. I shouldn't swim alone. Okay. Even though I was cleared to drive, you can't swim alone. You can drown in 6 inches of water. You get drunk and hit your head in the water, your head's in the puddle, you can drown. So I had to know that too. The most important piece of advice I can give them is your parents are going to love you no matter what. They're going to help you no matter what. But if you're not part of the team, if you're not part of the system, of your support system, you're going to fail. You've got to believe in yourself. Others will believe in you. But if this is why a lot of people I've worked with, I co-authored a book called The Journey to Recovery, Speak Sobriety by Stephen Hill, a former student of mine. I tutored SAT prep, who became an opioid addict. And he went through many rehab centers. And it was only when everybody said, let's get better, family members, like those intervention things you see, but he wasn't in on it. He didn't have buy-in. Until he did, he wasn't able to overcome his adversity. You are not alone, but you can't let everybody else support you and you don't support you. That's not fair, and it's a recipe for disaster.
Okay. Do you mind if I give you a scenario right quick and see?
Please do.
Okay, so let's say it's, I guess, probably some middle school children, and let's say a female sent her boyfriend a new picture of her, which just supposed to be for him, and him being a goofy boy, he sent it to everybody in the school, and that's passing around, and she's getting laughed at and all this. What should she do?
Well, it's also a case of, I like to delve into things, and I also am a life coach, and the truth is, my first research I want to do is what would make a girl of that age take a nude picture of herself. Number one, what would make her think she had to send it to a boyfriend? Number two, that's where the real problem is. Because I know it's sexting. I know it could also be, depending upon the ages, it could be child pornography. But what's the story behind that? Where's that girl's self-esteem? What guidance counselors or teachers connected with her? Who's in her corner? Who's part of her support system? Once it's out there, and kids, if you're watching, teens, if you're watching, it's out there forever. Right. This is 2022. So you can mitigate it, but I rather have you can't stop it once it's out there, but learn from your mistakes. Make sure you know this could be embarrassing. This cannot define you. You cannot control certain things, but you can always control your attitude about those things. That's the advice I would give. You have to move past this. What's the game plan? How are you going to learn from this mistake? How are you going to move forward? Don't let this define you. That's what the advice that I would give to the parents as well.
I see that. The motivational speaker, Mark, is dropping jewels on you. So, Mr. Mark, can you tell me about Great Success Inc? I looked up that a little bit, and it looked very interesting to me. So can you tell our viewers about that?
So Great Success Inc. is really Great Success Education, which is a full-fledged tutoring service. I don't do all the tutoring. I'm the CEO and founder, and I do some less as each year goes by because of my other projects, but SAT and ACT prep. That's about 60% of our business. I do speed reading and study skills, but I have people who do SAT and ACT prep along with me. Someone calls up and needs a bio tutor, I have that. Somebody needs a Spanish tutor, I have that. So right now, I was online and virtual before COVID was a word. So we've been doing live online like this. I see you, you see me for 10, 11 years now. We do college essays, which is very big in August and the fall. So it's anything educational. So Great Success Education, that's the tutoring aspect. So I thank you for asking about that. There's also the program aspect, and that's mostly me. Study skills for health and wellness and to reduce stress. It's not just regular study skills. I do it unlike anybody else. It's 75% of middle school and high school kids report stressful situations at school due to academics. So when parents say, get in your room and study for 2 hours, that's the wrong way to teach a kid how to study. The average person needs a break after 20 minutes anyway. So I find that the parents don't even know. So that part of Great Success is me doing anti-bullying training, team building at camps and schools and even corporations, speed reading and study skills by and large of itself for health and wellness, as well as some of the other things you mentioned, anti-bullying and other things, and communication skills. And that's even at the corporate level and in schools also. So that's the presentation model of Great Success Inc. That's more of the Marc Hoberman brand, but I like to meld the two brands together. Along with the shows that I do, we deal with education and life stories, as you see as well.
So how can people, if they want to be a part of that, how can they be a part?
So people can email me at info at gradesuccess.com. Best way to find out about me is the way you did your homework. And thank you so much for putting the time in for that at gradesuccess.com, GRADE success.com. MarcHoberman.com, spelled with a C. MarcHoberman.com is the website about more of my school, corporate camp, parent training, and things of that nature. So those are the two major hubs that are part of my professional and even personal life.
Okay. So Mark, what would you say has been, on this journey of yours, you've been doing a lot of phenomenal, successful things. What would you say has been your greatest challenge as you've been out here?
Wow, great question. My least favorite answer, but people, if you're out there, your business people, I like to think I don't toot my own horn. I've got plenty of very nice testimonials, one from a New York congressman who was a former student, from parents on Google. I can deliver the goods. I've had a big struggle marketing those goods. And we all. Yes. And I've been in the audience seeing a person as a presenter. It's nothing personal. I'm like, this guy's good, but I think I'm better than he is. I have people in the audience who say to me, Mark, you're better than him. Why is he getting 50 grand? Why is he in front of 1,000 people? And I've been in front of 800 people and 1,000 people, but I want to do that every week. And I send emails out and I've had the meetings and things like that. And it's a struggle that that you have something that can help teens, that parents, help people in corporate America. There's anti-bullying big time in corporate America. The only difference is the bully's now 45 and a manager, or 45 and the CEO. He's the same bully he was when he was 11 years old. There's no difference except 34 years were added. That's it. So that's been a struggle. And I've been lucky that the shows have done well and they're starting to be on more streaming services and networks. Not that I need everything to be now, but with a great marketing team behind me. But I've called the people up and I've paid the money, and some have panned out and some it was a money grab, and it's very difficult. So I'm just talking to those people in business now, quite honestly, that there are people out there, but you have to do a lot of homework, get your referrals. But that has been a struggle, getting the word out there, which should not be so hard in 2022 with TikTok and Snapchat and Pinterest, Facebook and Instagram. We can talk for 3 hours about that, especially you. You know that. So long-winded answer, but it's got a lot of info in there. I just dropped some jewels on some people.
He dropping them jewels. Y'all heard that?
I did.
Mark, okay, let me ask you this. Do you think social media has helped or hurt us as a society?
Both. It's not a cop-out answer. Social media for information, but being able to tell somebody or show somebody a video of a fight you saw in the lunchroom and somebody calls somebody fat or ugly, and then 800 kids in the school get that within 30 seconds. I'm not a fan. For educational reasons, I've used it in the classroom. It's called blended learning, bringing multimedia and different things into lessons. I love that when I taught. I still teach, but not, full time. I retired and I do my programs. But parents have to be on that social media. People have to bring people like me. Doesn't have to be me. People like me into the schools as an outsider looking in, telling them not that why this is wrong, showing them role plays, powerful debriefs and activities and fun hands-on activities that show people why this has to stop and how the kids are the ones who can stop it. 1 out of 25 incidences of bullying are seen by a teacher. 24 out of 25 incidents of bullying are seen by the kids. The teachers can't stop it. Yeah. The kids can stop it, but they need the tools. Bringing someone like me in can bring in those tools.
That was some marketing right there. Y'all see that? No.
Get that on Snapchat. Get that on TikTok. You share that out there. Call it Mark's dropping some jewels.
See, break me off some bread for that, Mark. No. Mark, with so many mass shootings going on now, what do you think is the cause of that? Because we're seeing more and more. It seems like almost every weekend now is a mass shooting.
This will not be a popular answer. The bad news is I'm going to tell you the cause of it. The good news is the solution comes from the cause. The cause is education. I've been in this business over 3 decades, coming up on four decades actually. And sometimes we teach the test too much. The money we get from the government is based on our reading scores and math scores. And we're not teaching character education, not instead of, in addition to academic education. And that's the panacea. The horrible gun shootings, the suicide rate, the bullying rate. The data is not alarming. It's frightening. It's tragic. But, you know, someday I'd love to be called in as the educational helping czar, something of that name, because I taught academics. I had to get kids to pass an essay, not pass it, do well on an SAT and an ACT to get into their dream college. I had to get kids to pass in English Regents. I get the academics of it, very important. But we're with them more waking hours than their parents.
Yes. And
the cause is we're teaching to the test. We're ignoring some of these problems. I'll get on my soapbox for a second. If I put 800 rifles in the school gym and told the kids when they walk in, grab a rifle and shoot somebody, I don't think that's going to happen. So it's not just about the guns. It's about the brain, the mindset, what's going on in this kid's head. Too many times I see them say, I've seen this. The shooting was terrible. Boy, out of all the kids who did it, I'm not surprised it was him. Really? I've seen an adult say that. You're not surprised it was him, so you knew he was troubled? How many times did you refer him to guidance? How many times did you call the parents in? How many times did you look for people to counsel that kid? Don't be reactive, be proactive.
Exactly.
So I just think we're going about this the wrong way. I will tell you that when George Floyd was murdered in the school districts I were in, when horrible things like that, tragedies happened, the kids came in and we talked it out with them. The reason why this got so out of hand, so many horrible protests, unfortunately, this was in no way the first case of such a thing, was that, I don't know if you realize this, but it was during the pandemic. The kids couldn't go to school the next day. They were home.
Yeah.
So they lost that connection with that in loco parenti, that teacher in place of the parent, bringing the experts in, seeing them eye to eye. I do tutoring now online. Nothing's better than in person. Luckily, we get excellent results online, but where's that personal connection? So I think they're barking up the wrong tree. I don't like what I see. It's not popular when I say it in schools. It is what it is. If you want to hear what you want to hear, don't bring me in, bring somebody else in.
Yeah. And it's wild that you say that, because I tutored for AmeriCorps and I was a mentor also a few years ago. And it was just crazy because we went to go visit a private school and they was teaching the children all these skills and lessons, and they were just, you know, it looked so phenomenal. But then in the school, I was in an inner city school, you know, tutoring and mentoring. And like you said, they were just basically teaching them the test. They were like, hey, we got to keep these school doors open. So this is the only thing they need to learn. And it was just night and day. It was baffling to me, you know, and these kids are really not getting nothing out of it. So I feel what you're saying on that a lot too.
I get it. And I see value and merit into that. And I understand where they're coming from. But if we put the energy into bashing this president or that president, this senator, that senator, we put the energy into America's youth, there would be, it wouldn't take 10 years, wouldn't take 10 months either. But you have the right plan, the right people involved, the right person leading it, things like that. We can change this country in 3 years. I don't see it happening. Maybe some major game changer person, an influencer, a celebrity will see this and maybe take some of that advice. Short of that happening, I'm not a pessimist. I don't like what I see. I don't like what I see moving forward. But, you know, I'm going to keep trying to knock down those barriers and do what I could do.
Okay. So let me ask you this, Mark. We talked about your greatest challenge. What do you think has been your greatest accomplishment?
Luckily, I've seen it happen more than once. I haven't seen it enough, but I've seen it happen more than once. The light in a student's eye or a parent's eye when they get it, when I know they helped them. I don't need it to be that I'm the one who helped them. They're helped, but I do feel better. There is some ego involved here, that I was the one to help them. People who've said to me, there are 30, 40, 50 students out there I still keep in touch with. I had dinner with a student who's a businessman three days ago when I was in LA on some business. There was a separate student I had dinner with, and the connections are still there. But to know that I help people the way I wish somebody could have helped me when I was a teenager, that's my greatest success. But using my show, I have 2 life stories with Marc Hoberman and Lighting the Educational Flame. That's one of my greatest successes, because I am like you and I talk to people, and I consider this a success for you. When I have other people here, I'm all about, I want to hear the story, not just the glory. Yes. And I want to hear about those struggles. So having people learn, I'm always an educator at heart. I'll be a businessman second. I was a born educator, I think. I had a great career and a rewarding career, at least to me. So educating people of all ages, all monetary levels, all walks of life, business. That to me is my greatest success, the connection.
Okay. What awards have you won?
I'm in Who's Who in America's Teachers. I won Young Adult Institute Award. I've spoken at the Young Adult Institute for Special Education on teaching students with learning disabilities. The book, when it first came out when I self-published it, was the #1 Amazon bestseller. I co-authored a book with Cass Henry called The Resiliency Playbook, was an international bestseller, all about the resiliency I talked about in controlling your attitude that we discussed earlier. So I've been blessed in that way. I mean, I will tell you that those are the rewards people want to hear, and I want to have those awards, but the reward to me is more important than the award. And the reward I get from helping others dwarfs any award I could ever get, unless I'm going to get some kind of like humanitarian award or an Oscar. Then I'm in. But the reward is more important than the award.
All right. Well, today I want to, award you with the Lacey Turner Man of the Year award. No,
I accept very humbly, and thank you. And I'll put that all over my social media in 10 minutes.
No, but what advice would you have to someone who's wants to write a book, also who've been going through struggles in life? What advice would you give to those people?
So it doesn't happen overnight. It depends what kind of book. I think anybody who can write at all should write. It's so cathartic. It really is so healthy. If it is about a struggle or something like that, organization is everything now. One of the other things you said to me was, what is your greatest success? I've co-authored 3 books. And so the fact that I was able to take someone's story that they wanted to get out there, but couldn't state it the way they wanted to state it, and couldn't articulate it they wanted to, I'm blessed that I was able to help them. And that's a part of the Marc Hoberman brand business too. I co-author books. So organization is very important, because if it's too much of a mishmash, you might have so much stuff, but it just becomes verbial vomit, for lack of a better term. If you can't organize it, and I've seen people, I said, good news, bad news. There's gold here. Bad news. I have to sift for it like it's the 1800s in California again. So I said, you have to organize it. You have to outline it. You have to put what's the timeline you want. That, of course, is for a memoir or a work of nonfiction. But even with fiction, you have to decide who the characters are. It's all the planning. It's like life. When you organize it the right way, the easiest part is writing the book. But if you don't do that, it's almost impossible to write your book. So it's all about the planning stages. And then when you have this, everybody and his brother's writing a book now. So how do you get it out there? How do you get on podcasts and radio shows, even TV shows, things of that nature? So the writing is great. It's a great catharsis. It's a great thing to help other people. If it's fiction, it's fiction. Planning is essential.
Definitely.
You have to plan. You have to organize.
Definitely. So do you have anything coming up that people can check out or attend or anything?
Sure. At the moment, I'm doing a lot of SAT, ACT prep for the White Plains Summer Athletic Program in White Plains, New York. Great bunch of people there. They go to strength training, they go to speed, and then they go to me for the academic piece. So shout out to those guys and Mike Chappis, who helps run that. I'm in Los Angeles virtually the next 2 Fridays. I was in person in Los Angeles in July. I'll be back August 12th with my partner, Janelle Mecca Holmes, for the Evolution Initiative, which is a multicultural initiative where we do anti-bullying, anti-racism, leadership training, things like that. We did that at the Expo Center for the Rexon Park. And so we're doing that, and it's the next 3 Fridays. We have 2 Fridays behind us. So there's a lot of things coming on. It's essay season. I'm going to be doing a lot of talks on essays, as well as talks on some book projects. Kind of confidential, sort of. A famous radio icon from the 70s, Shadoe Stevens, wrote a children's book many years ago, and my partner and I, someone who's on the Great Success team, Donna Palmer, is helping me write a curriculum for his story, because it's a great children's book called The Big Galoot, and it has many messages there. So we're going to be going to libraries and elementary schools and things of that nature. So no grass, you see there's no grass, grows on top of this brain, but for a good reason. So always busy doing stuff. So I'll be updating the sites, and the show's now on, Life Stories is on U2 America. That network has 40 million viewers, so we're expanding the show. Lighting the Educational Flame is on E360 TV on Roku and Apple TV. So there's a lot of exciting things going on, and this is my next chapter. I'm not done. I'm just getting started.
Okay. So my last question that I love to ask all my guests, when it is all over, when it is all said and done, what is it that you want the world to know about Mark Copeland?
So great question. I don't know. I'd love it for them to know about Mark Hoberman. I can't live forever, but I want people to be able to say Mark Hoberman built something that lasts forever. Because when I impart information to young people, their parents, and it goes on to their children, and several students from 35, 40 years ago have said, Mr. Hoberman, some of them call me Hobie, I'm a teacher, and I became a teacher because of you. That's going to outlive me. So if they remember that, it's all good.
Okay. Well, let the people know where they can find you at.
They can find me at markhoberman.com. They can also find me at gradesuccess.com. I'm all over social media. I'm on the, believe it or not, I'm on TikTok. I'm not dancing though. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, the whole thing. So and my email, I answer all emails. My email addresses, my business email addresses are on all the sites I gave you, gradesuccess.com and markhoberman.com. So, and there's life stories with markhoberman.com and educationalflame.com. So I am all over, but finding me should not be difficult.
Okay. Well, Mark, I want to thank you, for giving me your time. I know you're a busy man, and I just appreciate you. Like I said, we need more people like you, who been through things and made it out of it. And, you're teaching others, you're giving back to the community. And I always think that is a phenomenal thing. So I appreciate you and thank you for being on the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here. I appreciate your time. Thanks.
Okay. So I will let you know when the article drops also. And thank you for being on the Narrative Matters.
My pleasure.